think the capital gains tax, I think, is an interesting one. Anyone would like to take that up? I'm going to ask Laurence actually to answer some of these questions.
I think on the government divestment question, and I think it's about, it's obviously clearly a wider question of the whole landscape of GLCs and the work of Terence Gomez that's already been referred to. And I think the first question actually is about clarifying what the different objectives are across the different universe of GLCs, because there has been a mix of different objectives at play. So we've seen obviously the desire for industrial development, so kind of backing specific industries, which is still in the mix as a goal for some of the funds, but also, of course, the question of redistributing equity in Malaysia as part of the NEP, and then finally from a purely investment returns perspective in terms of savings. And I think one of the challenges is that it's not always clear which investments are serving which objectives. So I think the first step is just about clarifying those different objectives and how they're going to be monitored. I think that the government can continue to support industrial development without having majority stakes in a whole bunch of different companies in some of the ways that have been referred to, including using incentives or even sort of special cases to look at industrial development of specific parts of, the example of photovoltaic solar panels was mentioned, and how can the government kind of create an enabling environment to support that, I think is a completely legitimate line of inquiry that should be followed. It doesn't necessarily follow that the government needs to have majority stakes in a whole bunch of different companies to achieve that. So I think there are ways that the government can play a role in industrial development that don't require ownership at that level. And I think there are a lot of downsides associated with that ownership. And of course, we've seen some particularly egregious cases of corruption, but a more general issue of potentially creating some sluggishness in the economy. In terms of the second part of the question, which is how that would impact the sort of savings in PNB and EPF, I think the view should be clearly that those funds should have clear goals, and if those goals are around generating long-term returns for the people who have invested in those funds, say in the case of EPF employees, the objective should be to generate the maximum returns. And actually probably, I'm sure EPF is run very professionally indeed, but there are certain restrictions on EPF's investment position because it has to invest so heavily in the Malaysian economy. And actually it might, if they were given total freedom to just focus on generating returns on their investments, they might choose to diversify into other markets, be less exposed to a set of Malaysian corporates. So I actually think in the longer term, a government divestment strategy where those are then reinvested in different markets would be better from the perspective of generating long-term returns in those savings. So I think the first step is about clarifying what are the different objectives that we want to achieve with these different GLCs that we have, which of them are contributing materially in terms of achieving those objectives and which are not, and then how can we exit from those GLCs that aren't linked to specific objectives.